Hey YouTube, this is Dogs for Agony Gaming, bringing you another build for World vs. World Room. This is for the Mesmer. I know I do a lot of videos with the engineer, but this one's actually for the Mesmer, so let's get right down to it. I'll show you guys the traits. I also went 20 into dueling, 30 into chaos, and 20 into illusions. Looking across the board, I went for a deceptive evasion. No surprise here. This is a shatter build, so that's centered around condition damage, but deceptive evasion is one of those ones I said, you know what, you really can't go without this one. And then the next trait that I opted out for was blade training. Now this one is really subject to interpretation, so you can go for blade training, you can go for phantasmal fury, or you can go for decoy, just depending on your playstyle. So either one of those will work for this build. Alright, so for chaos, I went for a prismatic understanding. A very important piece to build here. It allows your stealth to last 1 second longer, which really does help out. And whenever you stealth, you have a random chance to gain one of these boons, which will help you out immensely in a fight when you're exchanging with your opponent. Next one I went for was bountiful interruption. So of course, when you interrupt the foe, you'll then gain another boon. So you'll always receive 5 stacks of might, but then you have a random chance to gain any one of these other boons: fury, might, protection, regen, retaliation, swiftness, and vigor. So very important. That one is subject to really interpretation. I would say you either go with that one, or you can possibly go with Mirror of Anguish. It's really kind of up to you. That's the one that works for me. This one right here, Bountiful Interruption, that works for me. So also then you also have the litigating dissipation. Excuse me, some of these words are pretty crazy. So clones, of course, apply a random condition, when to nearby foes when they are killed. So it does help out a lot. Again, another one that's kind of subject to interpretation. That's one that I go for, but obviously if you want to go for something else, hey, it's up to you. I don't think it'll make that big of a difference in the gameplay. This is where it gets kind of important. So now down to illusions. Alright, so you have the trait number 9. So cause confusion when blinding a foe. You do have the ability to blind, and of course, more confusion certainly doesn't hurt. You can obviously change this out for phantasmal haste. It kind of depends on you. For me, either or, it really doesn't matter. With this build, you don't do a lot of blinding, so yeah, I'll probably say phantasmal haste is probably more or less what you're looking for on this one. So, but again, keep your minds open. Let me know in any comments down below. If you thought a better setup worked for you. And then one of the things I did was I allowed I did Master of Misdirection, which is your confusions last longer. Again, another one that's subject to interpretation. Because this build does a lot of confusion, I thought it would be important that that we allow that confusion to last a little longer. So getting right down to the gear. All right, pretty much rabbit gears from head to toe, at least in terms of the armor. So it's precision, toughness, and condition damage, pretty much all the way down the line. And then I have superior runes of Lissa, which the most important thing is that 6 skill that it gives you when you use an elite skill. Lose all conditions, gain all boons for 5 seconds. It will help you out immensely in a fight. And then looking at the weapons, it went for the dire stat. You could go for precision, toughness, and condition damage. Definitely won't hurt, but I figured that I'd had enough precision and to increase my crit chance. Right now, a 44% crit chance, which I think is more than enough to proc the conditions that I'm looking to proc. So one of the things that I do is I'll start off with my dire weapon set with the +10. I'll go off and I'll look for some wolves or some coyotes, basically those classes of monsters that reproduce and keep on creating more monsters. and allow that to get me up to 25 stacks. And the reason why I went with plus 10 on both weapons, that it allows me to get max stats a lot quicker. So in this case, if I were to kill one enemy, I would gain +2 for every one enemy that I killed. So it just allows you to get your stacks faster. As soon as I get my 25 stacks of corruption, then what I'll do is I'll swap each weapon out for a parallel weapon, but the sigil is different. So I go with the superior sigil of torment, and that's what I do on all weapon sets. So again, get 25 stacks of corruption. As soon as I get 25 stacks, swap it out, and then all my weapons will have will have a chance to proc torment. Going over to the jewelry, as you can see, I have an ascended amulet, and the base stats are precision, toughness, and condition damage. At least for the amulet. Now for the rings, I went toughness, vitality, and the same thing for the accessory. And of course, my back piece has a similar stat, but it's either precision, toughness, condition damage, or you want to go toughness, vitality, condition damage being the highest base stat. Certainly more vitality doesn't hurt, but you need enough precision to where you at least have a crit chance of at least 40% plus. Alright, now another key thing to note is that before I go out fighting, even before I start getting the wolves and attacking monsters to get my corruption stacks up to 25, I'll take a rare veggie pizza, which does plus 40% to condition damage and plus 40% to condition duration and plus 70 to condition damage, and I'll consume a toxic focusing crystal. These two, it will add an immense amount of damage and kill ability to your character. And of course, the toxic focusing crystal gives you plus 100 condition damage, and then it gives you condition duration increased by 10%. Both those items you can find on the trading post. It's not hard, you just press O and then go here and then just type in rare veggie pizza, or focusing. There it is, toxic focusing crystal. So they're not hard to find. They're not too terribly expensive, but if you can get your artificer up to where you can make them yourself, that's a good thing to do. So just kind of going over the premise of the build and what I'm thinking of as I'm actively fighting. So I'll just kind of give you a taste of what I'm thinking of. So of course I want to get my toxic focusing crystal, get my nourishment up, all right, and then I have my other nourishment. So before I even step out the door, one of the things I want to do is have my mantra resolved. So I forgot to go over this, but so in terms of utilities, I'll go for Ether Feast, Decoy, Mantra of Resolve, Blink, and then Mass Invisibility. Now, it's up to you and your playstyle. You can go Scepter Torch and Sword Pistol, or you can go Scepter Pistol and then Sword Torch. It's really up to you and your playstyle. I've tried both, and with either combination, I found out that I was just as effective as the other. So it's kind of up to you. I like the sword pistol combination, and then the scepter torch. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna use this veteran guard, kind of like as an example. So like I said, I have my mantra resolve up even before I step out of town. All right, and then so one of the things to do is, I like to start it off with the Phantasmal Duelist. All right, and then that's just to get him up. Now, if my opponent looks like he's about to move or something like that, then I'll hit him with a Magic Bullet, and while he's stunned, I'll do Illusionary Leap. Hit him with Blurred Frenzy, and then after that, I'll decoy him. And so you'll see the sequence. I'll show it to you here in a second. So let's go right here. All right, looks like he's about to move. All right, I shoot out Illusionary, switch it out. While I'm doing that, I hit my Cry of Frustration, Decoy. All right, now I typically do Prestige. Start off my Phantasmal Mage. Now, the one thing to note is that the most important move that you can get off is this move, the illusionary counter. I mean, it does, and watch this, I'm gonna, boom, and what it does is that it makes your opponent have 5 stacks of torment, which is insane. That's an insane amount of torment to give to an opponent in a single blow. So out of all of this, the most damaging move that you'll have in your entire arsenal is illusionary counter. So you have to learn how to really master the timing of that move so you can get 5 stacks of torment. So just some basic concepts on World vs. World. There's 2 things that a player will always do in a fight. He'll always move, and he or she will always spam their skills. You have to. It doesn't matter what your character class is, what your profession, what your build. You will always do those 2 things. Move, spam your skills. So the cool thing about this build is that it counters you on both ends. Once you can get that illusionary counter move, once you can land that move on an opponent, whenever he moves, he's going to hurt, and he's going to hurt a lot. On top of all your chances to crit for AoE torment, it's very easy to get, like, 7-8 stacks of torment on your opponent, so they're going to be really hurting there. And the other thing that this thing does is it stacks a lot of confusion. So as they're moving, they're taking massive amounts of damage. All right, and then you can easily stack 10 plus layers of confusion. So as they move, they're hurting. As they try to spam their skills, they're hurting. And I'll show you some later videos where I actually made an elementalist just almost kind of kill himself because every player has to do it. They have to move, they have to spam their skills. Now this thing, it will trigger bleeding and weakness and different things like that, but those aren't really the main focuses of the build. The main focus of the build is to get that torment off and to lay on that confusion as quickly as possible. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you some of the fights that I had with this build, and you guys can take a look at it, leave your comments below, let me know what you think. So I started off this fight with Prestige. I'm chasing down the Elementalist. I want to do my Illusionaries leap and swap, but it didn't work out. So what I wound up realizing that as I was fighting this Elementalist is that I'm going to have to pin him down and just kind of smash him. And you'll see that this will be common amongst Elementalists and Thieves. With Thieves, they'll just kind of disappear and leap all over the place, and the Elementalists will just continuously just move really fast along with some warriors. So I knew that I was going to have to pin him down, and with this build you really have 2 moves that's going to help you pin down the enemy. One of them is Magic Bullet. Magic Bullet will just stun him anywhere for about 2 to 3 seconds, and then that's when you can really hit him with a lot of shatters. The other move that you have that you can work in combination is Illusionary Leap and Swap. Illusionary Leap will send a clone out to him, and then you swap, and that it will immobilize him. And typically what happens is I'll swap, and I'll follow it up with Blurred Frenzy, and I'll simultaneously shatter all the illusions that I have. So it really allows you to maximize damage. And as you can see, I've already dropped the Elementalist here. I go to finish him. He's going to do his mist form and move off, which you're used to. And so I go to do it again, but he actually winds up rallying off of one of the neutral monsters here, which is a smart move on his part. And so as you can see, he's dropping a lot of water skills and just really getting his mobility in. Now the thing that you really have to learn how to utilize is your illusionary counter. That is where the bulk of your damage will come from. And when you're fighting enemies that do a lot of AoE damage, believe it or not, it's actually easier, because when you do illusionary counter, you can still move. So if he has AoE down, you can actually do illusionary counter, walk into the AoE. Your character will block it, and you'll hit the opponent for 5 stacks of torment, and you can just simply leap out of it. So you can essentially apply 5 stacks of torment, or even 6 or 7 based upon this build, and then walk away there with no damage. And as you can see, I drop him, and then I go for the finish, and Of course, at the end, just for good measure, I go ahead and give him a quick laugh. So, but as you can see, this build is incredibly effective against those who like to run around and, you know, move. So I wind up running into the same elementalist again. Again, the principles are always the same, looking for your opportunity to hit them with illusionary counter. I am also looking for an opportunity to pin him down either with magic bullet or illusionary leap and swap, and then, you know, shatter him simultaneously. And in case I get in trouble, I'm looking, I'm going to use blink, which is a stun breaker, and I'm also going to use decord, which is also another stun breaker. And if I get in, some heavy trouble, or I'm really close to finishing him, and I need just that extra edge, then that's when I'll go with mass invisibility. And because I have superior runes of Lissa, that'll give me all the boons, remove all the curses, and so in that instance, you almost kind of become like Superman a little bit, to give you that extra edge, either to get away or to finish the fight. So you'll notice that in the fight, one of the moves that I like doing, if he tries to put some distance between me and him, is confusing images. Confusing images is a move that will stack, that will put 5 stacks of confusion on top of your enemy. So, like I said, every player is going to spam the skills, and every player is going to move. They're going to dodge, they're going to leap, they're going to do all sorts of kind of stuff. So that's why it's important that you constantly keep confusion and torment stacked on your enemy. And in some instances, and like the instance you're going to see right here, they'll almost do the job for you of killing them. And as you see how I blinked out of the way right there? That's what I'm talking about. Your opponent knocks you down, and they're getting ready to hit you with a lot of damage. Blink out of the way. Alright, and you'll avoid a lot of damage. Now, one of the things I do want you to pay attention to are my boons. You'll notice that this build, you will proc protection a lot, regen a lot, and vigor, but more than all of them is protection. So even though I don't have a whole lot of life, I do have a lot of toughness, and because I proc protection so often, especially when I'm going against a crit build that a lot of thieves like to use, you'll realize that you won't take as much as damage as you originally thought. And like I said, just kind of keep your eye on the amount of, or the amount of times that I proc protection with this build, because it's quite often. In fact, I have protection on me more often than not, or about half the time, depending on who. As you can see, I'm using the I'm using confusing images on my opponent right there. And like I said, don't forget, when you're fighting an opponent that does a lot of AoE, or you see you're fighting an opponent like a warrior that will they kind of have those huge telegraphing moves, that's when you want to use illusionary counter. Illusionary counter is where you're going to make the most amount of your money. And as you can see, I use confusing images. Alright, he's hurting himself, and the only reason why he isn't dead yet is because he's dropping a lot of water and healing himself. But look at his life in comparison to mine. I mean, he's in trouble most of the time. Alright, and again, because you constantly proc protection, and if that doesn't work, your ability to stealth will just really keep you safe. As you can see, he tries to hit me, boom, blink out of the way. So it can be really frustrating for your opponent when they're trying to pin you down, but yet you have the ability to pin him down. Alright, so as you can see, and another thing that you really want to kind of harp on and try to focus on is when you do prestige. When you do prestige, you really want to make sure that you're in somewhere in the vicinity of your opponent by the time it wears off. Because when it wears off, it's going to do an AoE flame. And when that AoE flame hits, you want him to be in radius of it. And it's going to wind up putting burning damage on him. And that burning damage is going to hurt. It's going to account for a lot of damage. Okay? So, again, prestige, try to be somewhere close to him. That way, when it wears off, boom, you do a lot of burning. Okay, and as you can see, he spends half of his time running. I could very easily heal right now and be back at full health, but because of the constant protection and whatnot, he's just not that much of a threat. And you'll see this will happen with a lot of opponents, with the only exception being a necromancer. A necromancer will give you a real hard time, even an average one, with this build. Alright, and as you can see, I'm doing the combinations. I do prestige, I stay real close to him. Boom, that way I trigger the burning. Alright, As you see, I'm constantly blocking because of the skills that proc every time I crit. And as you can see, he's trying to come close to me now. You're gonna see that he kills himself. All right, I really didn't. He almost did a job for me. And as you can see, he fell down not because I was hitting him with a lot of damage, but because he had, I think, like 5 or 6 stacks of torment, and he had a lot of confusion on him. So sometimes the opponent does the job for you with this build, which is pretty cool. All right, so I'm running up on a ranger here. First thing I do is prestige. You know, I do my Phantasmal Mage to trigger a lot of confusion. I mean, I was just all over this guy. He had no idea where up and down was by the time I was done with him. As you can see, I do illusionary counter in his AoE field, and then I wind up hitting him with lots of stacks of torment. And look how low his life is, and look where my life is. And that's because, you know, prestige and getting the drop on the foe was just priceless. Now, he does wind up getting one good move, which is one solid knockback off of me when I was trying to do my image move there. But as you can see, I stealth. Now, based off of where the rounds were hitting, I knew where he was, because when you stealth, if you trigger some type of attack that hits simultaneously, the stealth foe will still take the damage. So you can kind of use that to backtrack where he is. And as you can see, he's right there, right around the corner. Illusionary Leap, Swap, Blurred Frenzy, and he gets dropped in a matter of seconds. So this build works incredibly well against Rangers. And as you can see, I go for the finish, and you know, he's done. All right, so in this fight, I'm taking on another Ranger. I'm chasing him down, so I realize that you know, first and foremost, if I want to kill him, I'm gonna have to gain some speed. So that's the reason why I use my mass invisibility, because it triggers all the boons to include swiftness. So right now I'm thinking to myself, okay, what's the best way to get after him without, you know, triggering all the rest of the NPCs that are around, because they can make it a lot harder. So I just kind of sneak around to the backside of him, illusionary duelist, boom, hit him with magic pistol, you know, and then I try to do illusionary leap and Blurred Frenzy, but he wound up wisely rolling out of the way. So I just stealth again, and I just hit him with my long range move. And now, as you can see, because of the NPCs on the way, it's making it a little bit more difficult. All right, to really find him and hit him. But I mean, he's already down to next to nothing health. I drop him already. I could have easily walked up to him and finished him, but I decided I was going to dance around him for a little bit, all right, and then eventually, you know, just go for the finish. So this is actually a very easy and simple fight, mainly because I got the drop on him. But as you can see, I stealth. I'm crippled a little bit, but I just go for the finish, and you know, it was over. All right, so in here I'm fighting a warrior. What I'm basically doing is waiting for my golden opportunity to do illusionary counter. I do it there, but you know, I didn't quite trigger it, so I decided to use prestige, use confusing images right behind him. And the main thing that you really want to do with your Mesmer is just really kind of stay on top of your toes, be constantly stealthing, you know, constantly creating your clones, just kind of make it confusing for your opponent. And as you can see, there's my illusionary leap, followed by swap, followed by Blurred Frenzy. Now, the thing about warriors, they kind of telegraph their moves, especially with the hammers. And so you're going to see me use, there it goes. Alright, now if you didn't notice it, I was using counter spell. He leaped, I blocked, and I applied 6 stacks of torment on top of him. And as you can see, he's almost killing himself just moving. Alright, and as you can see, he goes down. It was a gentleman's duel, so I decided to not finish him off. But I very easily could have done so. And so the main point that I want you to take away from this is that, you know, the bulk of your damage is going to come from a illusionary counter. And as you can see, same. I'm decided to fight him again. Same warrior, same concept. Waiting for my golden opportunity to do illusionary counter. As you can see, there it goes. I can't cast my Phantasmal Duelist. Illusionary leap, swap, hit him again. Putting lots of stacks of confusion, make him pay every time he wants to cast a spell. Same thing again, illusionary counter. He hits, I block, I counter with 5 stacks of torment, and he winds up having 6 because that's the way that I'm traded. And then, as you can see, he goes down in just a matter of seconds. So that illusionary counter is where you're going to make the bulk of your damage.